Welcome back to The Person Everyone Needs. I'm your host, Webb Hoggard. Here we are at Thanksgiving, and we should be giving thanks. We should be thankful and thinking of the things that make us thankful. Man, that was a lot of thinks in there. But that's what this season is about, is taking the time to be grateful for what we have, for what God has done for us, the things that we get to enjoy, the people that we have around us, the places that we get to go, and we get to have moments together. And so today I've been meditating on a quote I heard from Dick Foth one time. He made the comment that he has gained all the wisdom in his life because of the books that he reads, and the most amount of books that he's read have skin on them. And he talks about how people are books, that people have been mentors in his life, and they have been people who have led him in the right direction, and how grateful he was that he's had all these people in his life to encourage him and help him. And I absolutely have been surrounded by incredible people in my life. Thankful. One of the things that I've kind of been turning my mind around recently is how my list of mentors have gotten so long. I'm so very thankful for the people who have invested in my life. But for the first time in my life, I'm starting to recognize that the list of disciples or students or friends or people that I'm getting to help and encourage in some way, that list is finally starting to increase and deepen. And I just can't thank God enough that he would see me worthy for me to even know his name, but secondly, for me to be used to encourage somebody else in that direction. I pray often that God would increase call, and then that all of us do our part in edifying and building up those people as he continuously builds his church. So I'm just thankful for my part, whatever God can do and whatever God will use in me. I pray that it would come to pass. But as I was thinking about that phrase from Dick Foth about books with skin on them, I was kind of reminded of the fact that I love books. Like, I like to buy books. I like to find a good deal on a book. If somebody I know writes a book, I want to buy that book. I love organizing them, putting them on the shelf. I've recognized recently there was a couple of times my wife let somebody borrow one of the books on my shelf, and I could just walk in the room and I sensed that a book was missing. It's ridiculous. But one of my favorite things to do, I like to walk through thrift stores and just look at the spines of books. I like to walk in my office and look on my shelves, and I just look at looking at the titles on the spine of those books. I know what I've read in those things, or I expect to know what's on the inside of that because of what is displayed there. And I also know that I love when I find a thrift store find, I want to buy a newer style book. I don't want something that's tore all to pieces, but I also like finding them when there's some books that have some highlights in it. So like there's some parts that I don't even have to read the whole thing to start getting what somebody else has already kind of filtered through and saw. I love seeing underlines by others when I get a used book. But there's something also about a brand new book. The smell that a brand new book has is just, I don't want to say intoxicating. I don't want to overstate it, but man, if it's not something that I like about it. And I'm sure at this point already you're tired of hearing about books. And so let me get to the point that I was really trying to get to. I like looking at the spines of the book that gives you the title, and it helps you to understand on that title and the writer, you know a little bit about what you're getting ready to head into when you pick that book up off the shelf. Such as if you're looking at your bookshelf and you look and you see the words Holy Bible, you kind of know what's going to be on the inside of those covers. If you look on the shelf and you see something written by C.S. Lewis, without even looking at the title, you kind of know this is going to be a heady, most likely deep and Christian book. Now, I'll tell you this. I read a book not too long ago by C.S. Lewis. It was entitled Till We Have Faces. And I read the whole book trying to figure out what the Christian theme was, and I found out later it wasn't actually a Christian book. This was supposed to be, fiction that really didn't have any type of allegory or anything like that. And I was confused the whole time. So there is a sense to which there are things that you can understand by looking at the spine of a book, and there are times that you could even misunderstand what the contents of a book is because of what you read on the spine. But most of the time, you can look on there and kind of see the direction that is going to be. When you read, I've recently been working on a master's degree, so when I see titles that say things like spiritual leadership, no matter who wrote that, I'm pretty much expecting to understand how to lead in a spiritual context. I recently purchased a book called The Kings and Prophets, and by the Dr. Mark Rutland, and I pretty much know that what that's going to be is a conversation, a study on the relationship between kings and prophets. I also know Dr. Rutland, and I know the style that he writes, and so I know what I'm looking for when I'm going into it. Okay, so what's the point of what I'm trying to say today? Today, not many of us are going to write a book. We're not going to publish a book, but we live in a world where we are actually able to largely put out our own spine, if you will. If people can look into our lives with our social media posts and our pictures and that kind of thing, and they can decide who they think that we are. They can label us, which, by the way, that's what the outside of a book is. It's a label. It's trying to kind of let you know what you should expect when you get on the inside, but we never really know what's on the inside of somebody until we get there. I can read a book that has the title Soul Care, but until I actually start digging into the pages, I won't really know what it means to have soul care, to the process of getting to caring for my soul, and the freedom that I get there as I look into it. When we look at each other's Instagrams and Facebooks and Twitters and TikToks, we may see this picture of either complete happiness or absolute despair, or somebody who goes on vacations constantly. You can create your own little prejudices and feelings about people who get to enjoy things you don't get to enjoy, or people who are having to endure things that you don't have to endure, and you have this picture of who they are. But every person you talk to, there's a lot of stories that you actually don't know. There's a lot of depth that has created the person that they are, and until you start pulling the pages apart and actually getting into their lives, you're never going to really know who they are, which makes me wonder, who are you? Like, I'm sure you're posting things and you're trying to project a person of who you are, but when you get to know who you really are you made up? What memories make you up? What circumstances have made you the person that you are now? How has God brought you to different chapters in your life to help develop the person that you are? Why are you scared? What are you scared of? What are you looking forward to? Who are the kinds of people that are your people, and who has stuck it out with you no matter what for the longest amount of time? And what kind of friends were just scaffolding in your life that helped you get to a certain point, but they're no longer there anymore? I understand that the spine of your book may look like a certain title. Maybe it used to be Damaged, but now there's a new volume out, and that's not the here. And your new story is Redeemed. It may have been Broke at one point, but now maybe you're getting to the point where at least you're budgeted. Maybe that's the title of yours. Maybe you used to be called Goofball. This is what I'm kind of thinking about my personal story. Is I used to be called like Goofball, and now some people talk to me and act like I'm too serious. And so there's a part of me that wonders, how much of myself did I lose in the transformation from taking things too unseriously to taking things too seriously? What are my boys going to remember when they talk about the spine of their dad? Will they only talk about him being a control freak that is worried about things that are not going to matter that much in the long run? Or will they say that my dad cared about Jesus? Will my spine read Jesus, the web story? Prayer, will that be what my spine is? Here's what I'm starting to pick up from the whole thing, though. Like, whatever is written on your spine, that'll be the backbone of the whole story. You hear it? Spine, backbone. That'll be the backbone of the whole story, but which means that if you want to have some level of story spoken about you, you're going to have a backbone. You're going to have the courage to be what you want to be, not just what you are. You're going to have to be on purpose the person that you want to be. That's something in Thanksgiving that we can be thankful for, that little by little, God is not just revealing to us who we've been or how we've reacted, but he is beginning to unlayer those parts of us that have been covering up who we really are. And if we'll let that process go to its full end, we get to know who we are. And the best way to know who we are is who we are in Jesus. Who would Jesus be if he were me? Dallas Willard said that that's what discipleship is. It's living a life that Jesus would if he were me. What reads on your spine? What words are seen on the cover of your book? Are the papers tattered? Are there some parts that could be highlighted as parts of your story that everybody should know? Have you taken the time to do some soul searching so that you can do some soul healing and maybe do some other encouraging to others? I want to be somebody that the spine, the backbone of my life is worth displaying. And I hope at the end of it all, no matter how many other volumes of Webb Hoggard is being able to be put on the shelf, I hope that my last chapter will read as clearly as possible Jesus. That he was like Jesus, that he did all he could to point to Jesus, and he gave his whole life for Jesus. I hope my boys will say that about me. I hope when they describe the book of my life, they'll say, he didn't care about a lot of things, but man, if he didn't care about Jesus. I hope they think I care more about Jesus than football. I hope they think I care more about Jesus than hunting. I hope they know that I care more about Jesus than every other thing in my life. The person who knows what they're made of, who knows who they are and knows who they want to be and continuously moves in that direction. The person whose spine reads clearly a life given for others. That's a person that everyone needs. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.